Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the Crypto Analyst channel. My name is Brendan, and if you guys are new here, it is certainly great to have you. And today we're going to be doing a full-on exploration and analysis of the crypto markets. So that means that we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance, Ethereum, and a couple of the other key players as well. Because for the past couple of weeks, if not the past couple of months, we've seen the crypto markets kind of chopping around, slowly bleeding back towards the downside. We're crossing underneath our 20-day moving average, our 50-day moving average, but we're still above that big 200-day moving average. And I think the misconception here is that Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of support less, and that maybe it's kind of exhausting the gas tank when that couldn't be any further from the truth. So I really want to clarify everything that's happening, especially on the Bitcoin chart, because there are a lot of positives to still kind of talk about here. So let's begin by just analyzing the current state of Bitcoin. Yes, we have seen a couple of rejections here, and we're gonna have to zoom in on this daily chart to really see it. But we initially started this breakdown from hitting a new high of year. Following this, we went immediately under and started testing this 20-day moving average as a resistance. Not the best thing to see, but it is the smallest of the major moving averages. Now, following this, we saw one rejection, and then most recently, our second rejection of that 50-day moving average, kind of further signaling of, hey, maybe the bulls aren't quite as strong as we thought they were here. This was one of those areas where I thought we were going to kind of chop back down towards maybe 27, 28,000. Not a massive move to the downside, but something that was a little bit lower than we hit over here because we only ever got to around 28.5K and really hit nothing below that for the most part. And so with these rejections of the 20 and the rejections of the 50, Bitcoin is now back at that 20-day moving average. And again, it's coming back towards support over here around $28,500. Now, you're looking at this and you're saying, hey, Brendan, this thing is rejecting its moving averages. It's chopping to the downside. Why is this, or really, how can this be a good thing? And to that, I would answer and say, well, yes, we are kind of chopping and slowly bleeding towards the downside, and we are testing this former support level as a resistance still. But with that being said, there's some really big support levels, 3 in fact, that I want to talk about here on Bitcoin's chart specifically. And so as Bitcoin's chopping down, the immediate one that probably catches a lot of people's eye because of all the touch points that it's had in this downwards consolidation or in this bull flag is this little descending support line that we have here, because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, arguably 5. I wouldn't really count this one, but 4 solid touch points on this support. And so as Bitcoin might be falling back down, this is one that we're looking at for sure around $28,000. Now, on top of this, if we zoom out, Bitcoin has a very well-established support line going all the way back to the very, very beginning of this year. Seriously, like starting at the very end of last year, very beginning of this year. This is a long-standing support line, and keep in mind, like, this isn't some zoomed-in chart. We're looking at a daily chart here. So going all the way back to New Year's, we bounced off of here very well to the upside, came back, touched this line again, saw a massive bounce to the upside, or not even a bounce. I think it's just a straight breakout. Came back to this support line a third time, massive breakout to new highs, and now we are coming back to this support line once again. So in other words, every time that we have hit this support line previously, it has sent Bitcoin to a new yearly high, whether it was in January, whether it was in March, whether it was in June. It's hitting this every couple of months, and it would make sense that we hit this in maybe August, September area, and then we see another bounce off of here. Because again, we had one in January, 3 months later we had one in March, around 3 months later we had one in June, and now we're looking for maybe 3 months later we're having one in August or September, and this is that same support line that is still held. Now, the third support line is not the rising or the descending ones that we've talked about, but instead it's the major 200-day moving average. And this one's a key player in crypto. I mean, we just talked about the 20 and the 50 being used as resistance, but this yellow one down here is a very significant support. And whenever Bitcoin touches this one, it really sees the bounce. Now, ever since Bitcoin was able to break back above its 200-day moving average, it has consistently been used as a support line, and we really haven't had to touch it a ton yet, but it's not like that on all of crypto's charts. In fact, a lot of cryptos are looking very, very different from one another. Whether it's Bitcoin and Ethereum and other altcoins like Chainlink or Solana or even like Cosmos, there's a lot of altcoin charts that look very, very different from one another. And we're going to look at some of those in just a second. But keep in mind that Bitcoin might not need to get down to its 200-day. It might, right? We might slowly kind of bleed down to it, but it might not need to because of the strength that Bitcoin's seeing, which kind of leads me into Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance is once again on the rise, kind of very slowly grinding back up to this 50-day moving average, or this pinkish line that we have. But it's been on the rise from around 49.5% all the way up to around 50.5%, which is kind of where it topped out at over here, actually just above 50.5%. But it's on this like slow grind back to the upside, and Bitcoin dominance is rising, which means that Bitcoin is essentially outperforming most of the altcoin market. Now, not every coin, because you have things like Chainlink and Solana, which have been crushing it recently, but the altcoin market as a whole, is kind of getting outshined by Bitcoin once again. Bitcoin is one of the top movers, and then I think a lot of this has to do with Bitcoin just holding value while altcoins are slowly bleeding faster than Bitcoin is. And a great example of kind of the strength of Bitcoin is that if we zoom out on Ethereum, Ethereum has a very similar rising support line where it has consistently touched this thing. In fact, it's had to touch support more times than Bitcoin. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touch points on the to support, as opposed to Bitcoin's 3 previous ones looking for a 4th. So it is twice as many touch points on the support line, and it also has twice as many touch points off of the 200-day moving average. So Bitcoin has arguably 1 or 2, and then Ethereum has 1, 2, 3, now 4 with this most recent move to the downside. So Ethereum is needing to fall back to support twice as much as Bitcoin is, which just tells me that sentiment in Bitcoin and the buyers in Bitcoin are stronger than Ethereum right now. And we see that once again reflected in the rise in Bitcoin dominance over the past 6 to 8 months now. Now, keep in mind, I am a huge Ethereum fan, and I might, I was going to say I might own more Ethereum than I do Bitcoin, but I'm actually not sure if that's a true statement. So we'll retract that. But I'm a huge Ethereum fan. I'm not trying to dog on Ethereum here, but it's just simply the truth of what we see on the charts here. And Bitcoin is remaining a really, really strong asset. And I love Ethereum. I fully plan to accumulate a lot more of it. I'm not trying to dog on it too hard, but Bitcoin right now is like kind of just the top performing crypto. And I think that'll probably stay the way as we approach the halving and Bitcoin dominance continues to rise, because that's always how we kind of segue into an altcoin cycle, because Bitcoin dominance has to be high so that it can fall off a cliff during these altcoin cycles. And then altcoins go on all these great runs, and we'll see things like Ethereum and a lot of other players as well perform really, really well. So that's kind of just one of the things I wanted to bring to the spotlight of like number one, Ethereum has some great support levels as well. But it is touching them more frequently than Bitcoin is. And we look at things like Chainlink, for example, kind of seeing a beautiful bounce off of its 200-day moving average, similar to some of these other charts. Granted, it's been a lot more choppy and a lot longer of this like sideways consolidation period than Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. But Chainlink's seen some really nice price movement, and then Solana's another one as well, bouncing off some good support levels. So across the board, the crypto market is looking pretty solid. And that kind of brings me back to the original point or question of like, what do I think about the crypto market right now? Well, I think that Bitcoin can certainly chop around for a little bit. It probably won't be the most fun thing. But I think it kind of the way that I see this playing out, and I've said this before on the channel, is that I kind of see this like slow chop sideways, maybe downwards a little bit, come back to some support levels. And then after it does this, the mid and long term look amazing for Bitcoin. It looks really, really good, not just fundamentally from all the news stuff that we're seeing with like PayPal getting in the crypto and Microsoft partnering with Aptos and 9 Bitcoin ETFs being applied in the US. Like, there's all this fundamental great stuff that we could talk about, but just technically, Bitcoin looks solid. And if you zoom out on a daily chart, Bitcoin has been making higher swing lows on the RSI since 2022. Which means this is a good thing to see. if Bitcoin is making higher swing lows consistently for almost 2 years now, I think that we are getting ready for something big to the upside. Now, it's probably not going to be this month. It probably won't even be next month. This is a very long-term chart that we're looking at, hence why it goes back 2 years. But I think the foundation for this next bull cycle is getting laid, and it looks like it'll be a pretty good one. And I would imagine that a lot of this is kind of timed around the time that we're going to see all these ETF approvals. So there's lots of stuff that's happening in the background. I just want to make sure that all this was brought to the spotlight. Again, nothing I say here is legal, financial, or tax advice in any way. I'm simply just a guy on the internet whose job it is to talk about cryptocurrency and research it. So I want to make sure I do all the research so that you all don't have to spend hours and hours every single day, and I can kind of optimize the process for you and feed it to you and let you make your own educated decisions from there. So that's going to round us up for this video, everyone. Thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you in next week's video.